let's see what else we got. Wait a minute. I got all kinds of notes. I got pads of notes because, of course, they had to send it to me on Twitter. But I would have seen it anyway because guess what I did? Not even knowing what was going to happen. Guess what I did the other day? I'm flipping through like I don't watch wrestling. I just flip through. I'm flipping through the guide, right, to look and see what's on TV. And I see coming up in 15 minutes is Impact Wrestling on Access. And I said, all right, I'm going to record this so I can zip through the commercials, but I'll watch this and see what the fuck's going on. And I'll do it tomorrow or whenever. I can't even remember what day the thing's on. So by the next day, before I'd watched it, we'd seen on Twitter, guess who took a dick flip? The world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock, took a dick flip from Dick Boy. And of course, that's what they tweeted out as a part of the promotion. Watch our program. We have former UFC legends being thrown around by a guy's dick. That's how they advertised. They were proud of it, first of all. But, of course, everybody said, what? I have always liked Ken Shamrock as a person and as a performer. I thought he was a good wrestler. He was obviously a good UFC fighter. He blended the two well. He had personality. He was good in the WWF. And, you know, I guess at this point, you've just got to reconcile yourself sometimes with people disappointing you. But I respect Ken. I don't want to. I watched it. Then after the fact, I watched the whole thing. It was obvious he was taking some marks, whichever one. I don't know. Maybe they all chipped in for his payoff. Maybe Ryan put some in and the marks that booked this fucking thing put some in. I don't know what Don Callis's fucking thought process may have been on this. Because I always thought Don had his shit together. But Ken did it for the money. And I mean, you know, and I guess if anybody can go ahead and say, well, fuck, it's all bullshit anyway. It's a guy who really was real, but still it's disheartening. But more important than just everybody getting me to cut a promo on Ken Shamrock for taking the dick flip and what has this world come to, let's examine the fact on this television program that is just like another zombie apocalypse again has come back from the dead. They can't put a stake through Impact's heart. In one shape or form, it will continue on. They can chop off its arms and its legs. It'll crawl to you on its belly like a reptile. It's just a flesh wound. But now they have gone from pretty much cable access television on the Pursuit channel to a network that now, since its HD net days, has grown exponentially, is noted for having New Japan Wrestling on, has had MMA, has for the past several years has come to be a home for somewhat, would you say, Brian, of the hardcore fans that want to watch athletic wrestling?
Specifically for New Japan, yes.
and then also for mixed martial arts and, you know, et cetera, combat sports. So they debut on Access, and they are able to retain the services of a guy who not only was a former main event guy in the World Wrestling Federation, but was a UFC champion, is a combat sports mixed martial arts legend. It has a name in mainstream sports as close to anybody that's probably, you know, I don't know if Moose was a big name football player, but they're not that long on their roster of mainstream sports stars. They've got him on their program on Access TV, and instead of trying to do some kind of something serious or some kind of cross promotion, or if he didn't want to have a real match because you couldn't pay him enough money, but he'd go jack around, have him do an interview or intermingle with some main event guys, something that you'd like to get over, something that you might want to get some mainstream attention to, or just somebody you want to give a rub to in a positive business atmosphere or business way, instead of, hey, like a bunch of kids on the playground calling attention to ourselves by pulling our pants down and wingling our ding-a-ling around. We can tell everybody that Joey Ryan's going to wrestle Ken Shamrock, and everybody will wonder what's going to happen to Joey's dick. And we can get people to watch us that way. because we have nothing else whatsoever apparently to offer in our minds. Nothing else to advertise. Just a freak show. Just we're going to have the guy that bites the heads off the live chickens at the county fair, and he's going to be in the ring with an actual legitimate athlete, celebrity who is past his prime but is taking our money to dignify this as long as he don't have to work too hard, which he didn't.
You know, desperate people do desperate things, and there's a reason why no one pays attention or cares about Impact. And there's a reason why it's become, you know, like, name another promotion that you could probably get out of prison and go work for right away. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just like the last ditch place to go to if you have nowhere else to go. Let me read you something real quick, Jim, because I actually received this morning from a very high-ranking music industry executive who makes a lot of money and talks to me about wrestling because he likes wrestling. Watching Ken Shamrock, Joey Ryan match on Impact Wrestling. Couple of things. One, had to check that I didn't hit the remote in slow motion because of Ken Shamrock. Well, I don't want to rip Ken Shamrock here, but can you explain how a guy gets attached to another man's penis as a finishing hold? And then he wrote, it's almost like a spoof of the Attitude Era. Yeah, that's it. Well, that was the one impression they made. That's the problem with all this stupid shit. You know, obviously there are some morons out there that like this Joey Ryan shit, but you turn away anyone who wants to give you a chance. You turn away people who want to give you a chance.
Well, regardless of how you think about the dick spot, the point is that they had a name, a mainstream name on their program, and they chose to utilize him to help them by having a bunch of people gawk at him. As I mentioned to Dick Boy, when I slapped him again on Twitter here recently when he began running his pie hole again. And that just because that the two dogs fucking on the side of the road draw the amused, bemused, horrified, stunned, astonished, gawking of a number of onlookers, does that mean that said dogs fucking are putting on a quality fucking performance? So I had already, when I found out that this happened, I already had the show on tape, right? Just coincidincally. So I said, well, I'm going to watch and see what the fuck else they've got going on. Is there anything that could have changed my opinion of this program? So I watched Outlaw Wrestling on Access TV, which is basically what they've done. They opened up with Sami Callihan and his drunk bum cohorts in OVE, which is because, you know, when you talk about really tough, violent places in the United States of America, you can talk about South Central LA, you can talk about Hell's Kitchen, New York, you can talk about Ohio. What the fuck? These fucking guys. And I'm sorry, I've met the Christ guys, and they're nice enough fellows, but they are pudgy, dumpy, small, unimpressive, tattooed up, pierced bums. That's what they look like. They wandered in off the street, which later on in this program is what they did. They wandered into the building, apparently off the street, but they opened the program with Callahan and his OVE backup drinking beer and slobbering it all over themselves with a bunch of other marks wearing T-shirts out in the parking lot. You couldn't tell who the wrestlers and who the fans were. And he's their world champion. And I've stood next to the guy when he was in New York, and Rich Bikini can verify this, when he was in New York on the roof of the building where we taped at the second night back in April, saying, oh, Jim, they really believe this stuff with you and me on the internet. We could work together. I'm like, yeah, can leave me alone, because I'd like to go get a fucking cheeseburger, pal. But he's 5'8". Maybe he's 200 pounds. He has no physical definition. He plays bad guy wrestler. He does. That is not his voice. The gravel voice, imitating Vince McMahon, introducing Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, is not his real voice. He tries so hard to puff his chest out. It looks like a banty rooster, and he tries to look imposing. He gets heat in that kind of way if he was an underneath guy, sticking a chest out like he was somebody. But it basically, it's a group of short, dumpy, nondescript, tattooed fucks that look like the fans wandered in off street, and one of them is their world champion. And that's what they started the fucking program with. But at any rate, Moose wrestled Willie Mack, and Don Callis was doing color. I did not catch, nor did I try hard to catch, the play-by-play guy's name, because he sounded like another one of these stagey, wrestling mark talking to another wrestling mark in their basement. And I use the word mark not in place of fan, but in place of mark. You can tell the terminology they use. He sounds like one. The match was okay, but they're in a building in Ontario that I'm sure Scott D'Amore got for him and probably sold out. But it was the same size as fucking Full Sail and looked 1/10 the size. It was dark, and I don't mean dark like Full Sail on purpose. I mean dark like Full Sail. We can't afford the lights. It was, the crowd was dead. The announcers rambled, and Moose and Willie Mack worked hard, and it didn't fucking really gel. And then there was some girls backstage talking, but we just came up on them, and you had to know who they were because they were all talking, and there was no announcer necessarily to fucking sort this out. And then one of the girls walks away and eavesdrops on some of the guys talking. And of course, it's obviously staged because then they do a 2-camera shoot to get a close-up reaction shot of the girl's face after she's overheard they don't know that she's, yeah. Then Michael Elgin, who I know from Ring of Honor, worked with Falaba. And this was 2 big guys having a big man match, and they worked very hard, and there was nothing necessarily wrong with it, except the people were blah. It was too long. They went through a break. They went even longer. They kicked out of everything. They went forever. And then Michael Elgin tapped him out.
What was his opponent's name?
Falaba. He's a big Samoan. I've actually met him a couple times. He's a good talent as a gimmick if he's in there with a smaller baby face. But Michael Elgin is a powerhouse and he does some great shit, but he would be better with they just had a styles clash. It just didn't come together. And then for some reason, they played a tape. They had more of Callahan, and his boys trying to play wrestler. And then they played a tape of Moose back in the 6-sided ring with Jeremy Borash doing announcing for the one round of the Grandmaster tournament, the flashback moment. I guess they needed to fill time. And then in a 2-hour show, this is what they did at the top of the hour. Basically, this is only an hour in. Here comes Joey Ryan versus Ken Shamrock. The pinhead play-by-play guy was making bad dick jokes and repeating them, in case you didn't hear him the first time. And basically, Ken made a personal appearance to take these people's money and do this. He looks incredible. He's got abs and physically looks insane. But they circled and stalled around. They a clean break. Ken did a couple arm drags, stalled around. He went for the heel hook so that Dick Boy could get the ropes, stalled around. Ryan hit him with a drop kick and it looked like a potato. And then they did the dick spot. And then when they did the dick spot, suddenly Ken, after being thrown by the guy's dick, jumped up and clotheslined him twice and put the ankle lock on him and he tapped out. So the business goal of any match is to get one person in it over. At least. If you can get both, you're great. But one person should leave better than he came. Examine the logic of this. Ken Shamrock, world's most dangerous man, WWF star, gets thrown by the guy's dick. So people are already, well, this is bullshit. And so we don't care anyway. But then if that was to be used to get Joey Ryan over, then Ken Shamrock pops up and immediately a 55-year-old man clotheslines a guy twice and ankle locks him and he taps out. So Ryan gets beat. So why did Shamrock even take the fucking bump? Why did any of this happen? because they just thought it would be funny and it would attract people's attention on Twitter so that they could be laughed at, but they're so desperate that this is the only way they can attract attention. It didn't get either guy over. Ken Shamrock looks like an idiot, and Joey Ryan tapped out. Boom. There you go. And so did I, because they had an hour left of the program, and I did not stay for it, because that's all I needed to fucking see. If they don't take their own show any more serious than that, why the fuck am I spending my time watching it? So good day to you people. I did say good day. There. Are you still there?
I am. I can't believe you watched that. I never would.
Well, I hate to be elitist,